A champagne bottle exploded against the pavement. The old German shepherd yelped, stumbling on legs that had once carried him through Afghan minefields. Two drunk teenagers in designer clothes circled him like predators. "Film this," one laughed, winding up for a kick. They had no idea this scarred, limping dog had saved 23 American lives. They didn't know his name was etched on a Medal of Valor. And they certainly didn't know that his handler, a Navy SEAL who would burn the world down for him, had just pulled into the parking lot behind them. If you want to see justice served, subscribe to our channel and stay until the very end. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. The bottle shattered 3 feet from Titan's head. Glass sprayed across the cracked asphalt behind Morrison's strip mall, and the old German shepherd flinched hard, pressing his body against the dumpster that had become his shelter for the past 11 months. His tan and black coat, once glossy and proud, hung loose over visible ribs. The scar on his left ear, a souvenir from a Taliban ambush in Kandahar, caught the harsh afternoon light. "Dude, you missed!" Preston Hartwell's voice dripped with mock disappointment. He pulled another bottle of Dom Perignon from the cooler in his Porsche Cayenne and tossed it to his twin brother. "Try again. Aim for the head this time." Parker caught the bottle, grinning. "Should I open it first? Make it more interesting?" "Nah, save it. This is funnier." Titan tried to stand, but his back right leg buckled. The old injury, the one that had ended his military career, screamed in protest. He'd taken a bullet meant for his handler 6 years ago. Now he couldn't even run from 2 drunk teenagers. Parker wound up like a baseball pitcher. "Hey!" The shout came from across the parking lot. Sarah Jenkins burst through the back door of her veterinary clinic, white coat flying behind her. At 32, she'd seen plenty of animal cruelty in this town. But this was something else. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Preston turned lazily, his $400 sunglasses reflecting her approaching figure. "Oh, look, Parker, the dog lady wants to play hero. Step away from that animal right now." Parker lowered the bottle, but didn't drop it. "Or what? You'll call the cops?" He laughed, a cruel sound that echoed off the strip mall walls. "Sweetheart, my dad owns the cops." "I don't care who your father is." Richard Hartwell. Preston stepped toward her, using his height to intimidate. "Maybe you've heard of him. Hartwell Real Estate? Hartwell Properties? Hartwell everything?" He gestured broadly at the buildings around them. "Including, I believe, this lovely little strip mall where you run your sad little rescue operation." Sarah's jaw tightened. She knew the name. Everyone in Cedar Falls knew the name. "That doesn't give you the right to torture a defenseless animal." "Torture?" Parker feigned offense, pressing a hand to his chest. "We're just having fun. Right, boy?" He kicked dirt toward Titan. The dog didn't react, just stared with eyes that had seen far worse than spoiled children. But those eyes. Sarah noticed something in them. Not fear, something else. Something that looked almost like patience. "I'm calling animal control." Preston moved fast, snatching her phone from her hand before she could react. "No, you're not." "Give that back." "Make me." Sarah lunged for it. Preston held it above his head, laughing. Parker grabbed her arm, yanking her backward. "Careful, lady. Wouldn't want anyone to get hurt." "Let go of me!" Preston examined her phone, scrolling through her recent photos. "Ooh, looks like you already took some pictures of us. That wasn't very nice." He dropped the phone on the asphalt and brought his heel down hard. Once. Twice. 3 times. "Oops, that's destruction of property. That's assault." "That's your word against ours." Parker released her arm with a shove. And whose word do you think matters more in this town? Sarah stumbled, but didn't fall. Her eyes darted to Titan, who had managed to pull himself upright. The dog was watching the twins with an intensity that seemed wrong for an animal in his condition. "We're taking the mutt," Preston announced, already moving toward Titan. "Dad's been wanting a new target for the shooting range at the ranch. This one's perfect. Old, slow, nobody'll miss him." "You're not taking that dog anywhere. Watch me." Preston grabbed Titan's collar, a faded military-grade collar that Sarah hadn't noticed before, and began dragging him toward the Porsche. Titan didn't resist, but he didn't help either. He went completely limp, forcing Preston to bear his full 70 pounds of dead weight. "Stupid mutt. Parker, help me." "What, you can't handle one pathetic dog? Just help me." Parker rolled his eyes, but moved to grab Titan's back legs. Together, they began carrying him toward the car. "Stop! Please, just stop!" Sarah's voice cracked. She was crying now, helpless, watching these monsters take an innocent animal to its death. And then she heard it. The low rumble of a diesel engine. A black Ford F-250 turned into the parking lot. Preston and Parker paused, still holding Titan between them. "Who's this now?" The truck stopped 30 feet away. The driver's door opened. Marcus Cole stepped out. 35 years old, short dark brown hair with early threads of gray at the temples. His Navy working uniform, the Type 3 with its green and brown digital camouflage, was wrinkled from 18 hours of travel. He'd flown from Kuwait to Germany to New York to Chicago, then driven 4 hours to reach Cedar Falls. He was here to see about adopting a dog. Sarah's clinic had a program matching veterans with rescue animals. His therapist had suggested it might help with the nightmares. Marcus didn't notice Sarah first. He didn't notice the twins first. He noticed the dog. The tan and black coat, the scar on the left ear, the slight tilt of the head. His heart stopped. Titan. The world narrowed to a single point. 3 years. 3 years since the divorce. Since Linda had promised to take care of him. Since Marcus had deployed with the unshakable belief that his partner was safe at home. "Titan?" His voice came out strangled, broken. The dog's ears perked up. His tail moved, just once, just barely, but it moved. Preston snorted. "You know this mutt?" Marcus couldn't speak. He was moving now, walking toward them, his eyes locked on the dog he'd raised from a puppy, trained through hell, trusted with his life. "Hey, buddy." Parker stepped into his path. "We're kind of in the middle of something here. Military or not, you should probably just keep walking." Marcus stopped 6 inches from Parker's face. Parker was taller, broader, 20 years younger. He had no idea how little any of that mattered. "Put the dog down." "Or what?" Marcus smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "You really don't want to find out." Preston let go of Titan's collar and stepped up beside his brother. 2 against 1. In their minds, those were winning odds. "Listen, soldier boy, SEAL." "What?" "Not soldier, SEAL." Marcus's voice was quiet, controlled. "There's a difference. I don't care if you're the President of the United States. That dog is ours now. We found him, finders keepers." Preston poked Marcus in the chest. "So why don't you get back in your little truck and—" Marcus moved. 1 second Preston was poking him. The next second, Preston was on the ground, his arm twisted behind his back at an angle that made Sarah wince. "Preston!" Parker lunged forward. Marcus caught his wrist mid-swing, redirected his momentum, and put him on the asphalt beside his brother. The whole sequence took less than 3 seconds. "Here's what's going to happen." Marcus's voice remained calm, conversational, as if he weren't currently restraining two full-grown men with minimal effort. You're going to stand up. You're going to walk to your car. And you're going to leave. Quietly. You're assaulting us! Preston's voice was muffled against the pavement. This is assault. My father will have you arrested. Your father can try. Do you have any idea who we are? Marcus applied just a touch more pressure to Preston's arm. Not enough to break anything, just enough to communicate the possibility. Do you have any idea what that dog has done? How many lives he's saved? How many American soldiers are home with their families right now because of him? It's just a dog. Marcus went very still. Sarah, watching from 10 feet away, felt the temperature drop. She'd seen anger before. This wasn't anger. This was something colder, older, more dangerous. Just a dog, Marcus repeated the words slowly. That just a dog took a bullet for me in Kandahar. That just a dog found 17 IEDs before they could kill my brothers. That just a dog has more honor in one paw than your entire bloodline. He released them both and stepped back. Preston scrambled to his feet, rubbing his arm. Parker rose more slowly, his eyes never leaving Marcus. This isn't over, Preston spat. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Wouldn't be the first time. My father, your father raised two cowards who torture old dogs for fun. I'm not impressed. Preston's face contorted with rage. For a moment, Sarah thought he might actually swing at Marcus again. But something in the SEAL's eyes, some promise of consequences, made him reconsider. Let's go, Preston muttered to his brother. But I said, let's go. They retreated to the Porsche, Preston clutching his arm, Parker glancing back with murder in his eyes. The engine roared to life, tires squealed, and they were gone. Sarah exhaled. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't... But Marcus wasn't listening. He was on his knees beside Titan, his hands running over the dog's matted fur, checking for injuries. His face had crumbled. The warrior was gone. In his place was a man seen as best friend for the first time in 3 years. Hey, buddy. Hey, it's me. I'm here. I'm here now. Titan whimpered. His tail wagged weakly. He licked Marcus's face, once, twice, and then simply pressed his head against his handler's chest. I'm sorry, Marcus's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I thought you were safe. I thought she was taking care of you. I never would have left you. I never... He couldn't finish. His shoulders shook with silent sobs. Sarah approached slowly, giving them space. You know this dog? Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. How long since you've seen him? 3 years. Marcus wiped his eyes roughly. My ex-wife. She was supposed to... I was deployed. I couldn't... She abandoned him? I don't know. I came back from my last tour. She was gone. The house was sold. I looked for him, for months. Nobody knew anything. He scratched behind Titan's scarred ear. I thought he was dead. Sarah knelt beside them. He's been living behind this strip mall for almost a year. We've been trying to catch him, bring him in, but he wouldn't let anyone get close. He was trained that way. Trust has to be earned. Let me examine him, please. Those boys have been tormenting him for weeks. He needs medical attention. Marcus looked up at her for the first time. Really looked. He saw the kindness in her eyes, the genuine concern. He saw the shattered phone on the ground. He saw someone who had tried to fight for his dog when she had no reason to. Thank you, the words felt inadequate, for trying to stop them when you didn't have to. Anyone would have. No, his voice hardened. They wouldn't have. Trust me. In my experience, Most people just look the other way. Sarah held his gaze. Then most people are wrong. Something shifted between them. A recognition. A mutual respect. I'm Sarah Jenkins. I run the rescue clinic here. Marcus Cole. And this is Titan. Titan, she smiled. That's a good name for him. He earned it. Sarah helped Marcus carry Titan into the clinic. The dog seemed to understand he was finally safe, finally home. His body relaxed in a way it hadn't in years. Inside, Sarah began her examination while Marcus stood close, never taking his eyes off Titan. The dog was malnourished, dehydrated, and had an infected wound on his hip that needed immediate attention. Has he eaten recently? I don't know. Probably whatever he could scavenge from the dumpsters. The infection is bad. Another week, maybe 2, and it would have killed him. Marcus's hands curled into fists. Those kids have been doing this for weeks, throwing things, chasing him with their cars. I've called the police 4 times. Nothing ever happens. Their father. Sarah nodded grimly. Richard Hartwell practically owns this town. The police, the city council, the judges, nobody touches his family. We'll see about that. Marcus, I understand you're angry, but you don't know what these people are capable of. Last year, a reporter tried to write a story about Hartwell's business practices. His house burned down 3 days later. Electrical fire. He moved out of state. I've dealt with worse. In Afghanistan, maybe, but this is different. These people don't fight fair. They fight with money, with influence. They'll destroy your life without ever getting their hands dirty. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching Sarah clean Titan's wound. You know what Titan's job was? In the military? No. He was trained to find threats, bombs, ambushes, enemy positions. He saved my entire unit more times than I can count. Marcus stroked the dog's head gently. And you know what he's doing right now? Even after everything they did to him, he's calm. He's patient. He's waiting. Waiting for what? Marcus met her eyes. For me to handle it. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Not from fear, from something like anticipation. What are you going to do? Before Marcus could answer, the clinic door burst open. 2 uniformed officers stepped inside. Their hands rested on their weapons. Their badges gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Marcus Cole? The larger one spoke. Sheriff's deputy by the look of him. That's me. We received a report of assault. You're going to need to come with us. Sarah stepped forward. That's not what happened. Those Hartwell boys were... Ma'am, please step back. They were torturing an animal. This man was protecting... Ma'am. The deputy's voice sharpened. Step back. Marcus placed a calming hand on her arm. It's okay. It's not okay. They're going to... I know what they're going to do. Marcus turned to face the officers. His posture was relaxed, non-threatening. But his eyes held something that made both deputies uncomfortable. I'll come with you. No trouble. He knelt one last time beside Titan. I'll be back, buddy. I promise. This time, I promise. Titan licked his hand. Once. A gesture of trust that had been forged in blood and fire halfway across the world. Marcus stood and allowed the deputies to lead him out. Sarah watched them go, her heart pounding. She'd lived in Cedar Falls her whole life. She knew how this story usually ended. But something about Marcus Cole made her think this time might be different. Her eyes fell to Titan. The old dog was watching the door where Marcus had disappeared. And in those eyes, Sarah saw something unexpected. Not sadness, not fear. Confidence. As if the dog knew something she didn't. As if the real story was just beginning. Sarah's phone was destroyed, but she had a backup in her office. She'd taken photos of those boys, of their license plates, of everything. And she knew exactly who to send them to. Marcus Cole wasn't the only one who knew how to fight. She pulled out her laptop and began typing an email. The subject line: "Remember that story about the Hartwells you could never publish?" The recipient: Jennifer Morrison, investigative journalist, National Network. Sarah hit send. Let the Hartwells come. Let them bring their money and their influence and their army of lawyers. They had no idea what they'd started. In the holding cell across town, Marcus sat alone on a metal bench. The deputies hadn't booked him yet. They were waiting for something, or someone. He closed his eyes and let his mind drift back to Kandahar, to the night Titan had saved his life. They'd been clearing a compound. Intel said it was empty. Intel was wrong. The ambush came from 3 directions at once. Marcus took a round to the vest, went down hard. An insurgent stood over him, AK raised for the kill shot. Titan hit the man like a furry missile. 70 pounds of teeth and fury. The insurgent's rifle went flying. Marcus heard screaming, then nothing. When he looked up, Titan was standing between him and 3 dead enemies. Blood dripped from his muzzle, a fresh wound on his ear. The dog had saved his life, and all Marcus could do was whisper, "Good boy." Now, sitting in a jail cell in small-town America, Marcus made a silent vow. They hurt you, buddy. They hurt you when you couldn't fight back. But I can, and I will. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Heavy, expensive shoes. Marcus opened his eyes. A man appeared beyond the bars. 60 years old, silver hair, a suit that cost more than most people's cars. Richard Hartwell. "So," the billionaire's voice dripped with contempt, "you're the one who assaulted my sons." Marcus stood slowly, deliberately. He walked to the bars and stopped 6 inches away. "Your sons tortured a war hero. A dog. That dog has more medals than your entire family." Hartwell laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "Medals? How quaint. Do you know what I have, Mr. Cole? Money, power, influence. I have judges in my pocket and senators on my payroll. I built this town. I own this town." He leaned closer. "And I'm going to enjoy tearing you apart." Marcus didn't blink. "You know what I've learned, fighting in 6 different countries over 15 years? Enlighten me. Men like you are always the first to break." Marcus's voice was quiet, almost gentle. "You've never faced real consequences in your life. Never had to fight for anything. When the pressure comes, and it's coming, Mr. Hartwell, you'll fold like a cheap suit." Hartwell's smile flickered, just for a second. "Big words from a man behind bars." "Bars don't scare me. I've been in worse cages than this." Marcus returned to the bench and sat down. "Go home, Mr. Hartwell. Hug your sons. Enjoy your money while you still have it." "Is that a threat?" "No. It's a prediction." Hartwell stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away, his expensive shoes clicking against the concrete. Marcus waited until the footsteps faded. Then he smiled. The game had begun. The cell door clanged open at 3:47 a.m. Marcus hadn't slept. He'd sat on that metal bench for 6 hours, running scenarios in his head, cataloging threats, planning contingencies. Old habits from the teams never died. A deputy he didn't recognize stood in the doorway. Young kid, maybe 25, nervous eyes. "You're free to go." Marcus didn't move. "What changed?" "I don't ask questions, sir. I just follow orders." "Whose orders?" The deputy glanced over his shoulder like he was afraid someone might be listening. "Look, man, I shouldn't be saying this, but just take the win, okay? Get your dog. Get out of town. Forget any of this happened." Marcus stood slowly. "And if I don't?" The deputy's face tightened. "Then God help you, because nobody else will." Marcus collected his belongings at the front desk. His wallet, his keys, his phone, which had 17 missed calls from numbers he didn't recognize, and one text message from a contact labeled simply, "Chief." The text read, "Heard you're stateside. Heard you found trouble. Call me." Marcus smiled for the first time in hours. Chief Petty Officer Danny Reeves, his team leader for 3 deployments. The man who'd taught him that wars weren't won with weapons. They were won with patience, planning, and an absolute refusal to quit. He stepped outside into the pre-dawn darkness and dialed. Danny answered on the first ring. "Cole, talk to me. Someone hurt Titan." Silence. Then, "How bad?" "Bad enough. He's alive. Barely." "Who?" "Rich kids. Father owns the town." Danny's voice went cold. That particular cold that Marcus recognized from a dozen operations. The cold that preceded very bad things happening to very bad people. "Where are you?" "Cedar Falls, Missouri, about 4 hours south of Chicago." "I can be there by tomorrow night. Ramos is in St. Louis. He can be there by noon. Kowalski's driving down from Wisconsin as we speak." "Danny, you don't have to." "Titan pulled me out of a burning Humvee in Helmand Province. I've still got the scars on my back. Don't tell me what I don't have to do." Marcus closed his eyes. The weight he'd been carrying alone for the past 12 hours suddenly felt lighter. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Thank me when those rich boys are crying for their mamas." The line went dead. Marcus pocketed his phone and started walking toward Sarah's clinic. It was 2 miles away. He didn't care. He needed the time to think. His boots hit the pavement in a steady rhythm. Left, right. Left, right. The same cadence he'd marched to in Bud/S, in combat, in every moment that had defined his life. Titan was alive. That was what mattered. Everything else was just details. Sarah was waiting for him when he arrived. She sat on the clinic steps, a thermos of coffee in her hands, dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept either. "They let you go," she said, not a question. "Surprised?" "A little." She stood, handing him the thermos. "I expected them to hold you, at least until Hartwell's lawyers could pile on charges." Marcus took a long drink. The coffee was strong and bitter. Perfect. "They tried to scare me off. Told me to take Titan and leave town." "Are you going to?" He met her eyes. "What do you think?" Sarah studied him for a long moment. Whatever she saw there made her nod slowly. "I think those boys picked the wrong dog to mess with." "How is he?" "Stable. The infection is responding to antibiotics. He ate a little bit around midnight. First real meal he's had in weeks, I think." She opened the clinic door. "He's been waiting for you." Titan was lying on a padded bed in the recovery room, an IV drip attached to his front leg. His eyes were closed, but his ears perked up the moment Marcus entered. That tail, that damn tail started wagging again. Marcus knelt beside him, running his fingers through the dog's fur. "Hey, buddy, I told you I'd be back." Titan's eyes opened, brown and gold and filled with something that looked a lot like relief. "The vet says you're going to be okay. We just need to get some weight back on you, get you strong again." Marcus's voice cracked. "I'm sorry I wasn't here. I'm sorry I left you with her. I thought—" He couldn't finish. Sarah watched from the doorway, giving them privacy, but unable to look away. She'd worked with animals her whole career. She'd seen bonds between pets and owners countless times. This was different. This was two soldiers reuniting after a war that had separated them against their will. "I made some calls," she said quietly, "while you were gone." Marcus looked up. "What kind of calls?" "The kind that might actually matter." She pulled out her phone. "Jennifer Morrison, investigative journalist with a national network. She's been trying to nail the Hartwells for years. Tax fraud, bribery, a suspicious death that got ruled accidental." Sarah showed him an email. "She wants to meet, today. She's driving down from Chicago." Marcus read the email twice. "She says there are other victims." "Lots of them. Former employees, business partners who got cheated, a woman who used to date Preston. They've all been silenced with money or threats." Sarah's jaw tightened. Nobody's ever been brave enough to go on record. Until now. Until you, a decorated Navy SEAL whose service dog was tortured by two spoiled brats? That's not a story they can bury. That's a story that goes viral. Marcus stood slowly. His mind was already racing, fitting pieces together. "If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. No half measures. We need to document everything. Build a case so airtight that all of Hartwell's money can't punch holes in it. I have photos. Before you showed up, I managed to take pictures of the twins with Titan. The timestamps prove they were there." "Where are they?" Sarah's face fell. "On my phone, which Preston destroyed." "Cloud backup?" I don't know. Maybe?" Marcus pulled out his own phone. "Log into your account. Check." Sarah's hands trembled as she typed. Seconds felt like hours. Then she gasped. "They're here. 12 photos, automatically backed up." She turned the screen toward Marcus. "Look." The images were damning. Preston and Parker, bottles in hand, clearly tormenting Titan. The dog's terror was visible even in still photos. "Send those to me, and to this journalist, and to 3 other people you trust." Marcus's voice was hard. "They destroyed your phone because they thought they destroyed the evidence. Let's make sure copies exist everywhere." "Already done." Marcus looked at her with new respect. "You're smarter than they gave you credit for." "I've been dealing with bullies my whole life. You learn to fight back in ways they don't expect." The clinic door opened behind them. Marcus spun, his body automatically shifting into a defensive stance. A man stood in the doorway. Hispanic, mid-30s, military haircut. A scar running down his left cheek. "Easy, Cole. It's just me." Marcus's tension evaporated. "Ramos, you made good time." Staff Sergeant Miguel Ramos stepped inside and pulled Marcus into a fierce hug. "Traffic was light. Also, I may have broken several speed limits." He pulled back, his eyes moving to the dog on the bed. "Damn, that's really him?" "That's really him." Ramos knelt beside Titan, extending his hand for the dog to sniff. "Hey, old warrior, remember me? Fallujah? You found that IED 20 feet from our position. Saved my whole squad." Titan's tail wagged. He remembered. "He looks rough," Ramos said quietly. "He's been through hell, but he's tough. He'll make it." "And the people who did this to him?" Marcus's expression hardened. "They'll wish they hadn't." Ramos stood, cracking his knuckles. "Good. That's what I wanted to hear. Fill me in." For the next 30 minutes, Marcus and Sarah brought Ramos up to speed. The twins, Richard Hartwell, the corrupt police, the journalist, everything. When they finished, Ramos was silent for a long moment. "So we're going up against a billionaire with unlimited resources, a police force in his pocket, and probably half the local government too?" "That's about right," Ramos grinned. "Good. I was getting bored." The morning sun was fully up when the next visitor arrived. This one Marcus didn't recognize at first. A woman in her 40s, professional attire, sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Jennifer Morrison," she said, extending her hand. "You must be Marcus Cole." "Ms. Morrison?" "Call me Jen. And I have to say, when Sarah's email came through last night, I almost fell out of my chair." She glanced at Titan. "A Navy SEAL canine hero? Tortured by the Hartwell twins? This is the story I've been waiting 5 years to tell." "What do you have on them?" Jennifer's expression darkened. "More than you'd believe. Richard Hartwell built his empire on fraud, intimidation, and strategic destruction of anyone who got in his way. But his sons," she shook her head, "they're worse. Because they don't even try to hide it." "The woman who dated Preston," Sarah interjected. "You mentioned her in your email." "Emily Chen. She was Preston's girlfriend for 8 months 2 years ago. When she tried to break up with him, he got violent. Really violent. She spent 2 weeks in the hospital." Marcus's jaw clenched. "What happened?" "Richard paid her off. $500,000 and an NDA. But she's been waiting for someone to fight back. Someone strong enough to give her cover." Jennifer met Marcus's eyes. "She's willing to testify. On camera. If you'll stand beside her." "What about the death you mentioned? The one ruled accidental?" Jennifer's face went pale. "Tommy Reyes, homeless veteran. He used to panhandle outside one of Hartwell's shopping centers. The twins decided he was bad for business." "They killed him?" "DUI. Parker was driving, drunk off his ass. Hit Tommy at 40 miles an hour. Left the scene. The whole thing got covered up. Hartwell paid off the only witness, and suddenly it was ruled a hit and run by an unknown driver." Ramos spoke for the first time since Jennifer arrived. "A homeless veteran. Army, 2 tours in Iraq. Struggled with PTSD. Fell through the cracks, like so many of them do." Jennifer's voice cracked slightly. "He was 53 years old. He survived a war zone. He shouldn't have died in a parking lot." The room went silent. Marcus thought about all the veterans he knew. The ones who made it home, but never really came back. The ones society forgot. The ones who ended up on streets, invisible, disposable. Men like Tommy Reyes. "I'm in," he said quietly. "Whatever it takes, I'm in." The clinic phone rang. Sarah frowned and walked to the front desk to answer it. Her voice was too low for Marcus to hear, but he watched her face carefully, saw the color drain from her cheeks, saw her hand begin to shake. She hung up without saying goodbye. "What is it?" "That was the county health inspector. They're shutting me down." "What?" "Unannounced inspection. They found critical violations." Her voice was bitter. "Violations that didn't exist yesterday." Jennifer sighed. "That's how Hartwell operates. He doesn't come at you directly. He uses proxies, bureaucrats he controls. By the time you figure out what's happening, you're already buried." "Can you fight it?" Marcus asked. "I can try, but inspections like this can take months to resolve. And in the meantime, I can't treat animals, can't keep the doors open." Sarah's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I've spent 12 years building this place. He's going to destroy it in 12 hours. Marcus felt something shift inside him, a cold clarity that always came before action. "No, he's not." "Marcus, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. He's trying to isolate us, take away our resources, make us feel alone." Marcus crossed to her, placed his hands on her shoulders. "That's exactly what I would do if I was him. Which means we're on the right track. Which means he's scared." "He doesn't look scared to me." "Rich men never do, until they are." He turned to Jennifer. "How fast can you get Emily Chen's story on air?" "I need interviews, documentation, evidence." "You'll have it. All of it. by tomorrow. That's incredibly fast. I've planned operations with less time and worse odds. This is just a different kind of battlefield. He looked at Ramos. Danny and Kowalski, when do they arrive? Danny said tonight. Kowalski's about 2 hours out. Good. When they get here, we start. Start what? Marcus smiled. That same cold smile he'd given Richard Hartwell through the jail cell bars. The counterattack. The Hartwell mansion sat on 40 acres at the edge of Cedar Falls. Marcus had done reconnaissance that afternoon, driving past twice to get the lay of the land. Security cameras everywhere. A gate that required a code. 2 guards at the entrance. Richard Hartwell wasn't taking chances. That night, in a motel room that smelled like cigarettes and regret, Marcus gathered his team. Danny Reeves had arrived an hour earlier. 15 years of service, 4 Bronze Stars, a Silver Star he never talked about. His hair was grayer now, his face more lined, but his eyes still held that same sharp intelligence. Tom Kowalski came straight from a construction job in Milwaukee. The biggest man in any room, with hands like catcher's mitts and a heart that matched. He'd been Titan's primary trainer before Marcus took over. The dog meant as much to him as anyone. Miguel Ramos sat cleaning a knife he didn't need to clean. Old habits. Sarah was there too, along with Jennifer Morrison. 2 civilians in a room full of wolves. Here's what we know, Marcus began. Richard Hartwell's got money, power, and connections. His sons are sadistic idiots who've been protected their whole lives. The local system is compromised. Police, inspectors, probably judges too. So we go outside the local system, Danny said. Exactly. Jennifer's network has reach. We give her a story so big that it can't be ignored. Not by the national media. Not by the feds. Not by anyone. What about the twins? Kowalski rumbled. They're still out there. Still dangerous. They'll make another move. Guys like that can't help themselves. Their egos won't let them walk away from a fight. Marcus's voice hardened. When they do, we'll be ready. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered anyway. Cole? Mr. Cole. The voice was smooth, cultured. Richard Hartwell. I understand you've been busy today. Word travels fast. In my town? Always. A pause. I called to make you an offer. A generous one. I'm listening. $1 million. Cash. To walk away. Take the dog. Take the girl. Leave Cedar Falls. And never come back. Marcus looked around the room. Every eye was on him. That's a lot of money. It's nothing to me. But it could change your life, Mr. Cole. Buy a nice house. Start a business. Forget any of this ever happened. And the journalist? The witnesses? What happens to them? They'll be taken care of. The words hung in the air. Taken care of. Such an innocent phrase with such dark implications. Let me ask you something, Mr. Hartwell. That homeless veteran your son killed, Tommy Reyes, how much did you pay to make that go away? Silence. I looked into it today. $500,000 to the witness, another $100,000 to the coroner, $50,000 to the detective who lost the evidence. Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. You bought your son's freedom for $650,000. That was a man's life, Mr. Hartwell, and you treated it like a minor expense. You're making a mistake, Mr. Cole. No, you made the mistake. 3 years ago, when your son decided to torture a dog, my dog. Now you're going to find out what that costs. I will destroy you. Better men than you have tried. Marcus hung up. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Danny spoke, a grin spreading across his weathered face. "Well, that's one way to negotiate." "He'll escalate now," Ramos said. "That call was supposed to intimidate you. You just humiliated him instead." "Good. Angry people make mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" As if in answer, headlights swept across the motel window. Marcus moved to the edge of the blinds and peered out. Two vehicles were pulling into the parking lot, a black SUV and a pickup truck. Men climbing out. 6 of them. Big. Armed. "Company," he said calmly. Sarah's face went white. "What do we do?" Marcus looked at his team. 3 men he'd trusted with his life, in the worst places on earth. Danny cracked his neck. Kowalski stood, his massive frame filling the room. Ramos flipped his knife closed and smiled. "What do we do?" Marcus turned back to the window. "We remind them who they're dealing with." Outside, the men were approaching, confident, cocky. They expected to find a lone veteran and a couple of scared civilians. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The first one through the door caught Danny's elbow full in the face. He went down like a puppet with cut strings. Ramos took the second, a quick strike to the throat that left him gasping on his knees. Kowalski simply grabbed the third by the collar and threw him into the fourth. They crashed into the wall together, groaning. Marcus intercepted 5 and 6 before they could even process what was happening. 2 movements, precise and brutal. They hit the floor within seconds of each other. 6 men, 8 seconds. Sarah stood frozen, her hand over her mouth. Jennifer was already filming on her phone. "Are they—" Sarah couldn't finish. "Alive," Marcus confirmed. "Unconscious, but alive. We're not murderers." One of the men groaned, trying to rise. Danny applied gentle pressure to a nerve cluster, and he went limp again. "They'll wake up in about an hour, with headaches and bruised egos." Marcus knelt beside the leader, searching his pockets. He found a phone, a wallet, and a small notebook. "Private security firm," he announced, reading from a business card. "Hartwell's personal contractors." "Which means we have proof he sent them," Jennifer said, still filming. "This just became conspiracy to commit assault. Maybe intimidation of witnesses." Marcus held up the notebook. Inside were names, addresses, photos. His name was there. Sarah's, Jennifer's, Emily Chen's. "He was planning to take us all out," Danny said grimly. "Not anymore." Marcus photographed every page, sent the images to 3 different secure locations, then tossed the notebook to Jennifer. "Add this to your story." "This is incredible. This is everything I need." Not quite. Marcus looked toward the back of the motel room, where Titan lay on a blanket Sarah had brought. The old dog was watching everything with calm, knowing eyes. "We still need one more thing." "What?" "The twins. On camera. Being themselves." Marcus's jaw tightened. "And I know exactly how to make that happen." Ramos raised an eyebrow. "You have a plan?" "I have Titan, the dog they couldn't break, the dog who survived everything they threw at him." Marcus knelt beside his partner. "They started this because they wanted to hurt something that couldn't fight back. Now we're going to show the world exactly who they are. And Titan's going to help us do it." The old German shepherd lifted his head. His tail wagged once. He understood. He always understood. The 6 unconscious men were zip-tied and left for the local sheriff to find, along with an anonymous tip and Jennifer's footage already uploaded to 3 secure servers. Marcus knew Hartwell would spin it somehow. Claim his men were attacked without provocation. But that didn't matter anymore. The narrative was shifting, and Richard Hartwell wasn't the one writing it. Dawn broke over Cedar Falls with a blood-red sky. Red sky and morning, Danny muttered, watching through the motel window. Sailor's warning. Storms coming either way. Marcus was already on his phone, coordinating. Jennifer, how fast can you get Emily Chen here? She's already on her way. Left Chicago 2 hours ago. Should arrive by noon. Good. What about the other witnesses? I've got 3 confirmed. A former accountant who worked for Hartwell Properties, a contractor who got stiffed on a $2 million job, and... Jennifer hesitated. And? Tommy Reyes's sister, Maria. She's been fighting for justice since her brother died. Nobody would listen to her. Marcus felt the weight of that name settle on his shoulders. Tommy Reyes, a veteran who survived war only to be killed by a drunk rich kid in a parking lot. His sister had spent years screaming into a void. Get her here. She deserves to be heard. By 10 o'clock, the motel room had transformed into a war room. Kowalski had acquired a whiteboard from somewhere. Marcus didn't ask where. And it was now covered with names, dates, connections. The Hartwell family tree. Their business interests. Their crimes. Okay, here's what we've got. Ramos stood at the board, marker in hand. Richard Hartwell, 62 years old. Founded Hartwell Properties in 1989 with a loan from his father. Built the company through aggressive acquisition, buying up competitors, usually after they experienced mysterious financial difficulties. Insurance fraud? Danny asked. At least 3 confirmed cases, buildings that burned down right before they were supposed to be sold. Investigators could never prove anything, but the pattern is clear. What about the sons? Ramos's jaw tightened. Preston and Parker, twins, 19 years old, expelled from Exeter Academy for hazing that put a freshman in the hospital. Expelled from Choate for the same thing. Daddy's money got them into a 3rd school, where they lasted exactly 1 semester before a girl accused Preston of assault. Sarah spoke up from the corner. What happened to her? Paid off, like everyone else. $500,000 and an NDA. Ramos drew a line connecting Preston to a new name on the board. But here's where it gets interesting. That girl? She's Emily Chen, the same Emily Chen who's driving down from Chicago right now. Marcus leaned forward. She took the money, but she's willing to talk? She took the money because she was 19 and terrified and alone. Now she's 21 and she's angry. Jennifer pulled out her tablet, showing a photo of a young Asian woman with determined eyes. I've been in contact with her for 6 months. She was just waiting for the right moment. This is the right moment. She agrees. The door opened and Kowalski stepped back in, his massive frame barely fitting through the frame. Perimeter's clear. No sign of Hartwell's people. They'll regroup, Marcus said. Last night was a message. Today they'll try something different. Like what? If I were Hartwell, I'd go legal. Hit us with injunctions, restraining orders, defamation suits. Bury us in paperwork while his PR team spins the narrative. As if on cue, Danny's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his face hardened. What is it? Text from a contact at the county courthouse. Hartwell's lawyers just filed an emergency motion. They're seeking a restraining order against you, Marcus, claiming you're a dangerous, unstable veteran who assaulted his sons and threatened his family. That was fast. Money moves fast. Sarah stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. This is insane. He's the one who sent armed men to attack us, and now he's claiming you're the threat? That's how people like him operate. Marcus's voice was calm. Too calm. They attack first, then play the victim. It works because most people don't have the resources to fight back. But we do. Jennifer was already typing on her laptop. "This restraining order motion. It'll be heard tomorrow morning. That gives us less than 24 hours to get our story out. Then we better move fast." Emily Chen arrived at noon, just as Jennifer had promised. She was smaller than Marcus expected. Delicate features, careful movements, the kind of quiet presence that made you lean in to hear her speak. But her eyes told a different story. Those were the eyes of someone who had been broken and rebuilt herself from the pieces. "Ms. Chen," Marcus extended his hand. "Thank you for coming." "Emily." Her grip was surprisingly firm. "And don't thank me yet. You might change your mind after you hear what I have to say." They gathered around the small table. Marcus, Emily, Jennifer, and Sarah. The others stood watch outside, giving them privacy. "Tell me what happened." Marcus kept his voice gentle. "In your own words. Take your time." Emily was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady, but Marcus could see her hands trembling in her lap. "I met Preston at a party, junior year of high school. He was charming, funny, rich, obviously, but he didn't flaunt it the way some guys do." She laughed bitterly. "I actually thought he was different." "When did things change?" "About 3 months in. Little things at first. He'd get jealous if I talked to other guys. He'd check my phone when he thought I wasn't looking. He started telling me what to wear, who I could be friends with." Her voice dropped. "I should have left then. I know that now. But I was 17. I thought it was love." "What happened the night you tried to break up with him?" Emily closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet. "He invited me to his family's lake house. Said he wanted to talk, work things out. I don't know what I thought. That he'd actually listen, maybe." She swallowed hard. "When I told him it was over, he just snapped. Started screaming, throwing things. I tried to leave and he grabbed me, threw me against the wall." Sarah made a small sound. Marcus didn't move, but his hands had curled into fists under the table. "He hit me, over and over. I don't remember how many times. I just remember thinking I was going to die, that nobody would ever know what happened to me." Emily's voice cracked. "His brother found us. Parker. I hoped maybe he would help me. Instead, he just stood there and watched. And when Preston was done, Parker said, 'Better clean this up before Dad finds out.' The silence that followed was absolute." I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. Broken jaw, fractured eye socket, 4 cracked ribs, internal bleeding. Emily met Marcus's eyes. "Do you want to know what Richard Hartwell said when he came to visit me?" Marcus nodded slowly. "He said, 'I'm sorry my son got carried away, but I'm sure you understand. Boys will be boys. Here's a check for $500,000. Sign this paper, and we can all move on with our lives.'" Her jaw tightened. I was 17 years old, lying in a hospital bed, and a billionaire was telling me that getting beaten nearly to death was just boys being boys. "You signed." What choice did I have? My family had no money. We couldn't afford lawyers. He made it clear that if I talked, he'd destroy us. She shook her head. "So I took the money. I paid for my medical bills. I paid for therapy. And I spent the last 4 years hating myself for being too weak to fight back." "You're not weak." Sarah reached across the table and took Emily's hand. "You survived. That takes more strength than most people will ever understand." "She's right," Marcus said. "And now you're here, ready to tell your story. That's not weakness, Emily. That's courage." Emily wiped her eyes roughly. "I'm scared. I won't lie. The Hartwells have destroyed everyone who's ever gone against them." "Not this time." Marcus leaned forward. "This time, you're not alone. This time, you've got people who will stand with you. And this time, the whole world is going to hear what they did." Jennifer had been recording the entire conversation. "Emily, are you willing to say all of this on camera? For a national broadcast?" Emily hesitated for only a moment. "Yes, I'm done being afraid." The interview took 2 hours. Emily told her story again, this time with professional lighting and multiple camera angles. She didn't cry. Her voice didn't waver. She looked directly into the lens and spoke with a clarity that made Marcus's chest tight. This was a woman who had been waiting years for this moment. When it was over, Jennifer pulled Marcus aside. "This is explosive. Combined with the footage from last night, the notebook with a hit list, Sarah's photos of the twins with Titan." She shook her head. "The Hartwells are done. They just don't know it yet." "When can you air it?" "I'm pushing for tonight, prime time. But I need one more thing." "What?" "You, on camera. The decorated Navy SEAL whose service dog was tortured. You're the face of this story, Marcus. People need to see you." Marcus had spent his entire career avoiding cameras. SEALs operated in shadows. They didn't give interviews or seek publicity. The idea of putting his face on national television made his skin crawl. But then he thought about Titan, about Emily, about Tommy Reyes, who died in a parking lot because a rich kid thought his life didn't matter. "Where do you want me?" They set up in Sarah's clinic, symbolic, given that Hartwell was trying to shut it down. Marcus sat beside Titan, one hand resting on the dog's back. The old German shepherd seemed to understand the gravity of the moment. He sat perfectly still, his eyes alert, his presence commanding. "Tell me about Titan," Jennifer began. Marcus took a breath. "I got him when he was 8 weeks old. Trained him myself. We deployed together 4 times. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Places I can't talk about." He stroked Titan's fur gently. "In Kandahar, we were clearing a compound when an ambush hit us from 3 sides. I took a round of the vest, went down. An insurgent was standing over me, ready to finish the job. Titan hit him before he could pull the trigger." "He saved your life." "He saved my entire unit's lives, more than once." Marcus's voice thickened. "Do you know how many IEDs he found? 17. 17 bombs that would have killed American soldiers. 23 confirmed saves. He's not just a dog, Jennifer. He's a hero. He has medals. He has commendations. And when he got hurt, when he took a bullet meant for me, the military retired him with honors." "What happened after that?" "I was still deployed. My ex-wife was supposed to take care of him until I got home." Marcus's jaw tightened. She abandoned him instead. Moved out of state, left him with nothing. He ended up on the streets, starving, alone. After everything he did for his country, he was thrown away like garbage. And then the Hartwell twins found him. They tortured him. For fun. Because they were bored and they thought a helpless old dog was entertainment. Marcus looked directly into the camera. "I've seen evil in my life. Real evil. Men who kill for ideology, for power, for hatred. But there's something uniquely sick about people who hurt those who can't fight back. Children, animals, the vulnerable." His voice hardened. "The Hartwell twins are predators. They've been protected their whole lives by their father's money. No more." "What do you want people to know?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I want people to know that justice isn't automatic. It doesn't just happen because you deserve it. Sometimes you have to fight for it. Sometimes you have to risk everything." He looked at Titan. "This dog risked his life for me, for my brothers. for strangers he never met. The least I can do is fight for him. The interview ended. Jennifer immediately began editing, working with her production team remotely to prepare the piece for that night's broadcast. Marcus stepped outside to clear his head. The afternoon sun was warm, but he barely felt it. His mind was already moving ahead, anticipating Hartwell's next move. Danny joined him a few minutes later.
Quite a performance in there.
It wasn't a performance. I know. That's what makes it powerful. Danny pulled out a cigarette, then thought better of it and put it away. Listen, Marcus, I've been doing some digging of my own. Got a buddy at the bureau who owed me a favor. FBI? Yeah. Turns out Richard Hartwell has been on their radar for years. Financial crimes mostly, but they could never make anything stick. Danny's voice dropped. Until now. What do you mean? That notebook we found? The one with the hit list? One of the names on it is a federal witness, a guy named David Park. He was supposed to testify in a securities fraud case against one of Hartwell's business partners. Marcus went very still. Witness intimidation. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. That's federal. That's not something Daddy's money can make go away. Danny allowed himself a small smile. My buddy says if we can connect Hartwell directly to that notebook, the Bureau will open an investigation. We have the notebook. We have the men who are carrying it. We have footage of them attacking us. We need one more thing. Hartwell's fingerprints on this. Something that proves he gave the order. How do we get that? Danny's smile widened. We let him give it to us. The plan came together over the next 2 hours. It was simple, really. Richard Hartwell was a man who had never faced real consequences. He believed he was untouchable. That arrogance was his weakness. He'll try to contact you again, Danny predicted. The restraining order motion is tomorrow. He'll want to cut a deal before this goes any further. So I take his call. You take his call, you record it, and you let him hang himself. Marcus nodded slowly. What if he doesn't make the call? He will. Men like Hartwell always do. They can't help themselves. They have to be in control, even when they're losing. The call came at 7:43 p.m. Marcus let it ring 3 times before answering. Jennifer's equipment was already recording. Mr. Cole? Hartwell's voice was different now. The smug confidence was still there, but underneath it was something else. Something that sounded almost like fear. Mr. Hartwell, I've been expecting your call. I'm sure you have. You've been very busy today, I hear. Interviews with journalists, meetings with federal witnesses. A pause. You're making a mistake. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. You think you can hurt me? I've survived worse than a washed-up soldier with a grudge. Navy SEAL. Excuse me? Not soldier. SEAL. You keep getting that wrong. Hartwell's laugh was strained. Whatever you are, you're out of your depth. This isn't a battlefield. This is the real world. My world. And in my world, money always wins. Does it? Because from where I'm standing, your sons are about to be exposed as violent criminals on national television. Your financial crimes are being reviewed by the FBI. And that little hit squad you sent after us? They're singing to anyone who'll listen. Marcus kept his voice calm. So tell me, Mr. Hartwell, how's that money working out for you? Silence. Then, what do you want? Justice. Everyone has a price, Mr. Cole. Name yours. You already tried to buy me off, remember? $1 million to walk away. That was before. Circumstances have changed. Hartwell's voice dropped. 5 million. Cash. Untraceable. You take your dog, disappear, and this all goes away. And the interview? The witnesses? The evidence? I'll handle them. They're not your concern. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Handle them how? Does it matter? $5 million, Mr. Cole. That's more money than you'll see in 10 lifetimes. Take it and walk away.
And if I don't? The mask finally slipped. Hartwell's voice became pure ice. Then I will destroy everyone you care about. The vet who's been helping you? Her clinic is already shut down. Tomorrow, she'll face criminal charges for practicing without a license. The journalist? I have enough dirt on her network to get her fired by noon. Emily Chen? He laughed. That stupid girl violated her NDA the moment she opened her mouth. I'll sue her for every penny I gave her, and then some. You're threatening witnesses. I'm promising consequences. There's a difference. Not to the FBI. Hartwell went quiet. This call is being recorded, Mr. Hartwell. Every word. Every threat. Marcus's voice was calm, almost gentle. You just admitted to planning witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. On tape. That you can't buy your way out of. You son of a... This is over, Mr. Hartwell. The only question now is how much you lose before you accept it. The line went dead. Marcus looked at Jennifer, who had been monitoring the recording equipment. Her face was pale, but triumphant. Tell me you got all that. Every word. She was already making copies, sending files to secure servers. This is it, Marcus. This is the smoking gun. Ramos burst through the door. We've got a problem. What? The twins, Preston and Parker. They're not at the mansion. They slipped out about an hour ago. Marcus's blood went cold. Where are they? I don't know, but Marcus. Ramos's face was grim. They were seen driving toward town, and they were carrying baseball bats. Sarah. The clinic. Titan. Marcus was already moving. They found the Hartwell twins' Porsche parked outside Sarah's clinic, both doors hanging open, engine still running. The front window was shattered. Marcus hit the ground running, his team right behind him. He could hear sounds from inside, glass breaking, things being thrown. And underneath it all, a sound that made his heart stop. Titan barking. Not the alert bark of a trained military dog, the desperate, pained bark of an animal in distress. He crashed through the door. Preston Hartwell stood in the middle of the examining room, a baseball bat in his hands, surrounded by destruction. Overturned tables, shattered equipment, medical supplies scattered everywhere. Parker was in the corner, spray painting something on the wall. The words were still forming, but Marcus could already read them. Dead dog walking. And Titan was backed against the far wall, teeth bared, his injured leg barely holding him up. Blood dripped from a fresh wound on his shoulder. They had hit him. They had hit his dog. Something inside Marcus Cole went very, very quiet. Preston saw him and grinned. There he is, the big bad Navy SEAL. He swung the bat casually. You know what your problem is, soldier boy? You brought a dog to a bat fight. Marcus didn't respond. He just moved. Preston never saw the first strike coming. One moment he was grinning. The next he was on the floor, the bat flying from his hands, his wrist twisted at an unnatural angle. Parker dropped his spray can and charged. Marcus sidestepped, caught his arm, and used his own momentum to send him crashing into his brother. They went down in a tangle of limbs. Stay down! Marcus's voice was ice. Preston tried to rise. Marcus put him down again, harder this time. I said stay down! Danny and Ramos moved in, securing both twins with zip ties. Kowalski was already at Titan's side, examining the shoulder wound. He's okay, Kowalski reported, relief flooding his voice. "It's shallow. Looks worse than it is." Marcus knelt beside his dog, his hands trembling as he checked the injury himself. Titan whimpered once, then licked his face. "I know, buddy. I know." Marcus pressed his forehead against Titan's. "I'm sorry. I should have been here. I should have—" "Marcus," Sarah's voice came from the doorway. She'd been in the back when the twins broke in. Her face was pale, but she was unhurt. "The security cameras. I installed them last month. Hidden. They didn't know." Marcus looked up. "Everything they did is on video. Breaking in, destroying the clinic, attacking Titan." Sarah's voice hardened. "They filmed themselves committing felony animal cruelty and destruction of property. Again." Preston groaned from the floor. "My father." "Your father can't help you anymore." Marcus stood slowly. "But I'll tell you what. I'll give you the same choice he gave Emily Chen. The same choice he gave Tommy Reyes's family." He leaned down until he was inches from Preston's face. "Nothing. You get nothing. Because that's what you deserve." Blue and red lights flashed outside. Not the local sheriff this time. Jennifer had called ahead. State police. Officers who didn't answer to Richard Hartwell. As the twins were dragged away in handcuffs, Preston screaming about lawsuits and his father's lawyers, Marcus stayed with Titan. Sarah knelt beside them, already treating the wound. "He's going to be okay," she said softly. "You got here in time." "I almost didn't." "But you did." She placed a hand on his arm. "That's what matters." Outside, the state police were securing the scene. Jennifer was already on her phone, updating her network. The story had just gotten bigger. And somewhere, across town, Richard Hartwell was learning that his sons had just been arrested on camera, with evidence he couldn't suppress and witnesses he couldn't silence. The empire was crumbling. Marcus stayed with Titan until the dog's eyes closed, exhaustion finally winning over adrenaline. The old warrior had fought his last battle. Now it was time to rest. But for Marcus, the war wasn't over yet. Not until Richard Hartwell faced the same justice his sons were about to receive. Not until every victim had their voice heard. Not until the world knew exactly what kind of monsters the Hartwells truly were. He pulled out his phone and dialed Danny. "The twins are in custody. Federal agents are reviewing the recording. Jennifer's story airs in 2 hours." He looked at Titan, sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. "It's time to finish this." Danny's response was immediate. "What do you need?" "Everything you have on Richard Hartwell. Every crime, every cover-up, every victim." Marcus's voice was hard as steel. "By morning, I want to know every skeleton in that man's closet." "And then?" Marcus smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Then we bury him with them." Jennifer's story aired at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. 47 million people watched. The segment opened with footage of Titan, the scarred, limping German shepherd who had saved 23 American lives. Then came Emily Chen, her voice steady, as she described what Preston Hartwell had done to her. Then the security footage from Sarah's clinic, showing the twins breaking in, destroying equipment, attacking a defenseless old dog. Then Marcus. His face filled screens across America. A Navy SEAL in uniform, his hand resting on his partner's back, speaking with quiet intensity about honor, sacrifice, and the kind of evil that hides behind wealth. "This dog took a bullet for me," Marcus said on screen. "He found 17 bombs before they could kill American soldiers. He's not property. He's not entertainment. He's a hero. And he deserved better than what this country gave him." By 9:47 p.m., #JusticeForTitan was trending worldwide.
By 10:15 p.m., the network's website had crashed twice from traffic. By midnight, 3 more victims had contacted Jennifer Morrison, ready to tell their stories. Marcus watched it all from Sarah's clinic, Titan sleeping at his feet. The old dog's shoulder was bandaged, his breathing steady. He'd earned his rest. "It's happening," Sarah said softly, scrolling through her phone. "Look at this. People are sharing Emily's story. They're sharing the footage. It's everywhere." Danny looked up from his laptop. FBI field office in St. Louis just announced they're opening an investigation into Richard Hartwell. Financial crimes, witness intimidation, obstruction of justice. He whistled low. They're not messing around. What about the twins? State custody. Bail hearing tomorrow morning, but the prosecutors pushing to deny release. Flight risk. Danger to the community. Danny grinned. Apparently, being caught on camera attacking a war hero dog doesn't play well with judges. Ramos's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his eyebrows shot up. "You're not going to believe this." "Try me." Richard Hartwell's wife just filed for divorce. Emergency petition. She's claiming she had no knowledge of her husband's criminal activities and wants to distance herself before the indictments come down. Sarah shook her head. "Rats fleeing a sinking ship." It gets better. She's also offering to testify against him in exchange for immunity. The room went quiet. Marcus had seen this before. In war zones, in criminal organizations, in anywhere that power was built on fear rather than loyalty. The moment the leader showed weakness, everyone scrambled to save themselves. Richard Hartwell had spent 30 years building an empire. It was collapsing in 30 hours. "It's not enough," Marcus said quietly. Everyone looked at him. "The twins are in custody. The FBI is investigating. His wife is turning on him." Danny spread his hands. "What more do you want?" "I want him to face Tommy Reyes's sister." Marcus's voice was hard. "I want him to look Maria in the eyes and explain why her brother's life was worth $600,000 in hush money. I want him to answer for every person he crushed on his way to the top." That might actually happen. Jennifer had been on her phone continuously since the broadcast ended. Now she looked up with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. "I just got word. Richard Hartwell wants to make a statement. On camera. Tomorrow morning." "A statement?" "His lawyers are calling it an opportunity to address the allegations directly." Jennifer's smile was thin. "I think they're hoping to get ahead of the story. Spin it somehow." "Can you arrange it?" "I already did. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., at his office downtown." She met Marcus's eyes. "He specifically requested that you be present." "Me?" "He wants to face his accuser. At least, that's what his lawyer said." Jennifer leaned forward. "This could be a trap, Marcus. He might be planning something." "Of course he's planning something. Men like Hartwell always have a plan." Marcus stroked Titan's head absently. "But so do I." The night passed slowly. Marcus didn't sleep. He sat with Titan, watching the story spread across the internet like wildfire. Every hour brought new developments. A former Hartwell Properties executive came forward with documents showing systematic fraud. A retired judge admitted he'd been taking bribes for years. A state senator who'd received campaign contributions from Hartwell announced he was returning the money and calling for an investigation. The dominoes were falling. Around 4 a.m., Kowalski brought coffee. The big man sat down heavily, his face troubled. "You okay?" Marcus asked. "I keep thinking about Tommy Reyes." Kowalski wrapped his massive hands around the cup. "Army vet, 2 tours. Survived all of that, and some drunk rich kid runs him down in a parking lot." "I know." "His sister's coming tomorrow. Maria. She's going to be at the broadcast. Kowalski's jaw tightened. I want to be there when Hartwell sees her face. I want to watch him squirm. You will be. It won't bring Tommy back. No. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Nothing will. But maybe it'll mean something. Maybe it'll make sure nobody else ends up like him. Kowalski nodded slowly. That's why you're doing this, isn't it? Not just for Titan. For all of them. Everyone the Hartwells have hurt. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. At 7:30 a.m., they gathered outside Hartwell Properties headquarters. The building was a glass tower in the center of Cedar Falls, a monument to one man's wealth and power. Today it looked different somehow. Smaller, more fragile. News vans lined the street. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras clicked and flashed. The whole world was watching. Marcus walked through the crowd with Titan at his side. The old dog moved slowly but steadily, his head high. He knew this was important. He always knew. Behind them came Danny, Ramos, and Kowalski. Jennifer Morrison. Sarah Jenkins. Emily Chen, her face pale but determined. And Maria Reyes. Tommy's sister was a small woman in her 50s, with gray-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too much grief. She carried a photograph. Her brother in his army uniform, young and proud and alive. You ready for this? Marcus asked her quietly. Maria's voice was steady. I've been ready for 4 years. Inside the building, security tried to stop them. 6 guards, hands on weapons, blocking the elevator. Mr. Hartwell is expecting Mr. Cole only, one of them said. Mr. Cole doesn't go anywhere alone. Danny stepped forward, and something in his eyes made the guard flinch. You want to be the one who explains to the FBI why you obstructed witnesses in a federal investigation? The guards exchanged looks. Then they stepped aside. The elevator ride to the top floor took forever. Marcus used the time to center himself. Whatever Hartwell was planning, whatever trap he'd set, it didn't matter. The truth was already out. The evidence was already public. Nothing the billionaire said or did could change that now. But that didn't mean he wasn't dangerous. The doors opened onto a marble-floored reception area. Richard Hartwell was waiting. He looked different than he had at the jail. Older. Grayer. The expensive suit was the same, but it hung on him differently now, like armor that no longer fit. His lawyer stood beside him, a thin man with cold eyes and an expensive watch. Mr. Cole. Hartwell's voice was controlled, but Marcus could hear the strain underneath. Thank you for coming. I didn't come for you. I came for them. Marcus gestured to the people behind him. Emily Chen, who your son nearly beat to death. Maria Reyes, whose brother your son killed. Sarah Jenkins, whose business you tried to destroy. These are the faces you've been hiding from, Mr. Hartwell. Take a good look. Hartwell's eyes moved across the group. When they landed on Maria, holding her brother's photograph, something flickered in his expression. Something that might have been shame. I didn't come here to apologize, Hartwell said. Then why did you come? The billionaire straightened his shoulders. To make a deal. We're not interested in your money. Not that kind of deal. Hartwell's lawyer handed him a document. This is a signed confession. Everything. The fraud, the bribery, the cover-ups, everything except... He paused. Everything except my sons. I want immunity for Preston and Parker. The room went dead silent. Marcus stared at him. You're offering yourself up to protect your sons. They're my children. Whatever else I am, I'm still their father. Your children tortured a war hero dog. Your children beat a woman so badly she spent 2 weeks in the hospital. Your son killed a homeless veteran and left him to die in a parking lot." Marcus's voice was ice. "And you think you can trade your freedom for theirs? I'm not asking for forgiveness, Mr. Cole. I'm asking for mercy, something you claim to believe in." "Mercy?" Maria Reyes stepped forward, her voice shaking with 4 years of suppressed rage. "You want to talk about mercy? Where was mercy for my brother? Where was mercy when your son ran him down and drove away? Where was mercy when you paid off witnesses and buried the investigation?" "Mrs. Reyes, my brother survived 2 tours in Iraq. He came home with nightmares and scars and demons he couldn't escape. And when he fell through the cracks, when he ended up on the streets, your son treated him like roadkill." She held up the photograph. This was a human being. This was someone's child, someone's brother. And you think you can buy your way out of what you did to him? Hartwell said nothing. "You want to know what mercy looks like?" Maria's voice dropped to a whisper. "Mercy is me standing here talking to you instead of putting my hands around your throat. Mercy is me believing that the justice system will do what you paid it not to do. Mercy is me hoping that your sons spend every day of their sentences remembering my brother's face." She turned away, unable to look at him anymore. Emily stepped into the silence. "I was 17 years old when your son put me in the hospital. 17. I had dreams, plans, a future. He took all of that away, and you wrote a check like you were paying a parking ticket. I tried to help you, you tried to silence me. There's a difference." Emily's eyes were bright with tears she refused to shed. "But I'm not silent anymore, and neither are the others. How many are there, Mr. Hartwell? How many people have you paid off over the years? How many lives have your sons destroyed while you looked the other way?" Hartwell's lawyer touched his arm. "Richard, we should—" "No!" Hartwell pulled away. "Let them speak. I owe them that much." Sarah stepped forward. "You tried to shut down my clinic, my life's work, because I dared to stand up for a helpless animal. I was protecting my family. You were protecting your ego." Sarah's voice cracked. "I've spent 12 years helping animals that nobody else wanted. Strays, abandoned pets, the ones society throws away. And you tried to destroy all of that because your sons got caught being monsters." Hartwell closed his eyes. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Marcus said, "The confession. Let me see it." Hartwell's lawyer handed over the document. Marcus read it carefully, page by page. Danny and Jennifer looked over his shoulder. It was comprehensive. Bank fraud, tax evasion, bribery of public officials, obstruction of justice in at least 4 cases, witness intimidation, cover-ups of his son's crimes dating back over a decade. If this document was legitimate, Richard Hartwell was going to prison for the rest of his life. "Why?" Marcus asked finally. "Why turn yourself in now?" Hartwell was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, smaller, almost human. "I watched your interview last night, you and that dog, and I saw my sons, really saw them, for the first time." He looked at Marcus with something that might have been despair. "I created them. I made them what they are. Every time they did something terrible, I fixed it, paid it off, made it go away. I thought I was protecting them. I thought I was being a good father." He laughed bitterly. "I turned them into monsters. And now they can't even see what they've done wrong. So you're sacrificing yourself for them." "I'm trying to give them a chance, a real chance, to be held accountable, to face consequences, to maybe, someday, understand what they did." Hartwell met Marcus's eyes. "You were right, Mr. Cole.
in the jail. You said men like me break when the pressure comes. I didn't believe you then. But you were right. Marcus studied the man before him. 30 years of wealth and power, crumbling to dust in less than 48 hours. He thought about Titan, about the dog who had been abandoned, tortured, left to die, about the loyalty and courage that had never wavered, even when the world had forgotten him. He thought about Emily Chen, 17 years old, bleeding on a lake house floor while a rich boy's brother watched and did nothing. He thought about Tommy Reyes, face down in a parking lot, his life draining away while his killer drove off to another party. This confession isn't enough, Marcus said. Hartwell's face went pale. What more do you want? I want you to say it, on camera, in front of the whole world. Marcus stepped closer. I want you to look into that lens and tell everyone what you did. Not your lawyer's version, not the sanitized legal language. The truth. All of it. That's not possible. Then we have nothing to talk about. Marcus turned to leave. Wait. Hartwell's voice was desperate now. Wait, please. Marcus stopped, but didn't turn around. If I do this, if I confess publicly, will you speak for my sons at their sentencing? Tell the court they can be rehabilitated. Danny made a disgusted sound. Kowalski's hands clenched into fists. But Marcus turned slowly, his face unreadable. I'll tell the court exactly what I saw. What your sons did to a defenseless animal. What kind of people they showed themselves to be. He paused. And I'll tell them what I see now. A father who finally understood, too late, what his choices cost. Whether that helps your sons or not is up to them. It wasn't what Hartwell wanted, but it was more than he deserved. Okay. The billionaire's voice was barely a whisper. Okay. I'll do it. The confession aired live at noon. Richard Hartwell sat in his own boardroom, surrounded by cameras, and told the truth for the first time in 30 years. He admitted to the fraud, the bribery, the cover-ups. He admitted that his sons had grown up believing they were untouchable, and that he had made them believe it. He admitted that Parker had killed Tommy Reyes, and that he had paid $650,000 to make it disappear. When he said Tommy's name, Maria Reyes bowed her head and wept. I destroyed lives, Hartwell said, his voice breaking. I told myself it was business, that this was how the world worked. But it wasn't business. It was cruelty. And I passed that cruelty on to my sons, like an inheritance. He looked directly into the camera. To everyone I've hurt, to Emily Chen, to Maria Reyes, to the families of everyone my sons terrorized, I am sorry. That word isn't enough. Nothing I say will ever be enough. But I am sorry. When it was over, FBI agents were waiting. Richard Hartwell was led away in handcuffs, past the same reporters who had once covered his charity galas and business triumphs. He didn't resist, didn't protest. Just walked with his head down, a man finally facing the weight of his own choices. Jennifer turned to Marcus. That was unprecedented. A billionaire confessing the federal crimes on live television? The network's already calling it the broadcast of the decade. It's not about the broadcast. Marcus watched the FBI car pull away. It's about what happens next. What do you mean? This isn't over. The twins still need to face trial. The victims still need justice. The systems that protected the Hartwells for 30 years still exist. He looked at her. One confession doesn't change that. No, but it's a start. Sarah appeared at Marcus's side. The clinic just got a call. The health inspection has been reversed. Apparently the inspector who shut us down
is now under investigation himself. That was fast. Amazing what happens when some light hits the shadows. Sarah smiled, but her eyes were tired. I've also gotten about 200 calls from people wanting to help. Donations, volunteers, even a few lawyers offering pro bono work for the victims. Kowalski approached, phone in hand. Maria wants to talk to you. Marcus found Tommy's sister standing alone near the window, still holding her brother's photograph. Mrs. Reyes. Maria. She didn't look up. After everything we've been through, I think you can call me Maria. Maria. Marcus stood beside her, giving her space. How are you holding up? I don't know yet. Her voice was distant. I've spent 4 years imagining this moment, playing it over and over in my head. What I would say, what I would feel. She finally looked at him. It doesn't feel like I thought it would. What did you think it would feel like? Triumphant. Vindicated. Something. She shook her head. Instead, I just feel empty. Tommy is still gone. Watching that man confess doesn't bring him back. No, it doesn't. So what was the point? Why did we fight so hard? Marcus was quiet for a moment. I had a teammate once. Name was Rodriguez. We were in a bad spot. Ambush, outnumbered, no extraction for hours. Rodriguez took a hit, saving my life. He died in my arms, asking me to tell his daughter he loved her. Maria looked at him. For a long time, I asked myself the same question you're asking. What was the point? He died, and nothing could change that. No amount of medals or honors or posthumous recognition would bring him back. What answer did you find? That the point isn't to undo the past. We can't do that. The point is to make sure it means something. To fight so that other people don't have to go through what we went through. Marcus met her eyes. Tommy's death led you here. Your fight led to today. And today, a man who spent 30 years destroying lives is finally being held accountable. Because of you. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I like to think Tommy would be proud of you, Marcus said softly. You didn't give up, even when everyone told you to. Even when the whole system was against you. You kept fighting for him. I had to. He was my brother. And now other families won't have to fight alone because of what you did today. Maria looked at the photograph in her hands. Tommy in uniform, young and brave and full of hope. He always wanted to make a difference, she whispered. Even when he was on the streets. Even when everyone had given up on him. He still wanted to matter. He does. He will. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. The legislation we're pushing. Protection for homeless veterans. Accountability for hit-and-run cases. Reform of the legal systems that allow people like Hartwell to buy justice. We're going to call it Tommy's Law. Maria looked up sharply. What? Jennifer's already working on it. A documentary about your brother's story. About what happened to him and how the system failed him. It's going to reach millions of people. Marcus's voice was firm. Tommy Reyes is going to matter more in death than Richard Hartwell ever mattered in life. I promise you that. Maria broke down completely. Marcus held her while she sobbed. This small, fierce woman who had spent 4 years screaming into the void. She had finally been heard. And somewhere, Marcus hoped, Tommy was at peace. The twins' bail hearing was that afternoon. The prosecutor argued that Preston and Parker Hartwell were flight risks with access to unlimited resources. The defense argued that they were young men from a good family who deserved a chance to defend themselves from their own homes. The judge, a new judge, not one of the Hartwells' paid lackeys, listened to both sides. Then he denied bail. Preston broke down crying. Parker tried to attack the prosecutor and had to be restrained by 3 bailiffs. They were led away in orange jumpsuits, their designer clothes and expensive watches confiscated. For the first time in their lives, they were going to live like everyone else. Marcus watched from the gallery, Titan lying at his feet. "Does it feel good?" Sarah asked quietly. "I don't know if good is the right word." Marcus scratched behind Titan's ear. "It feels necessary. It feels like something that should have happened a long time ago." "What happens now?" "Now we wait. For the federal trial. For the state charges. For the system to do what it's supposed to do." He looked at her. "And we build something better." "What do you mean?" "The clinic. The rescue program. Everything you've been trying to do for 12 years. Marcus's voice softened. "Those donations people have been calling about. The lawyers offering pro bono work. There's enough to expand. To create something bigger. A real sanctuary for animals like Titan." Sarah's eyes widened. "Marcus, that would cost—" "Millions have already been pledged. Jennifer's network set up a fundraiser during the broadcast. It hit $10 million in the first 6 hours. Sarah couldn't speak. Her hand found Marcus's and squeezed tight. "You don't have to do this alone anymore," Marcus said. "None of us do." That night, for the first time in days, Marcus slept. He dreamed of Kandahar, of Titan running through dust and gunfire, finding death before it could find them. Of Rodriguez, bleeding out in his arms, asking him to tell his daughter he loved her. But this time, the dream didn't end in darkness. This time, he saw Tommy Reyes standing beside Rodriguez. 2 soldiers who had given everything, finally at peace. "Take care of them," Rodriguez said. "I will," Marcus promised. "All of them. I will." When he woke, Titan was beside him, brown and gold eyes watching with an intelligence that was almost human. "Hey, buddy." Marcus ran his hand over the dog's fur. "We did it. We got them." Titan's tail wagged once. "But we're not done yet. There's more work to do. More people to help." Marcus sat up slowly. "You ready for that?" Titan pressed his head against Marcus's chest. That was answer enough. The sun was rising over Cedar Falls. A new day. A new chapter. And somewhere in a federal holding cell, Richard Hartwell was learning what it felt like to be powerless for the first time in his life. Justice was coming. And it was only just beginning. 1 year later, Marcus Cole stood at a podium in Washington, D.C. The chamber was packed. Senators, representatives, military officials, veterans advocates, all of them watching as he adjusted the microphone. Titan sat beside him in a specially designed harness, his metals gleaming against his tan and black fur. The old dog had gray around his muzzle now. His limp was more pronounced. But his eyes were clear, and when the cameras turned toward him, he sat up straight, like the warrior he had always been. 347 days ago, Marcus began, his voice steady, I found my partner starving behind a strip mall in Cedar Falls, Missouri. He was being tortured by 2 young men who thought his life was worthless. The chamber was silent. Titan served 4 combat tours. He found 17 IEDs. He saved 23 American lives. He took a bullet meant for me. Marcus paused. And when his service was done, when he had given everything for his country, he was abandoned, left to die alone. He looked down at Titan. Today, that changes. Behind him, a massive screen displayed the words, Titan's Law, Military Working Dog Protection Act. This legislation guarantees lifetime care for every military working dog who serves our nation. Medical treatment, housing, support. The same commitment they make to us, we now make to them. Marcus's voice hardened. Never again will a hero like Titan end up on the streets. Never again will their sacrifice be forgotten. The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. Maria Reyes sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face. The bill included provisions for homeless veterans, too. The Tommy Reyes Amendment, guaranteeing emergency shelter and mental health services for any veteran in crisis. Her brother's name would be remembered. His death would mean something. Emily Chen sat beside her, holding hands with a young woman Marcus didn't recognize. Emily had testified before Congress twice in the past year. She'd become an advocate for domestic violence survivors, turning her pain into purpose. The girl who'd been silenced for 4 years couldn't stop speaking now. And Sarah Jenkins, Dr. Sarah Cole, as of 6 months ago, watched her husband with pride that felt like it might burst her chest open. The small clinic in Cedar Falls had become the Titan Sanctuary, a sprawling facility that housed over 200 retired military dogs and employed 15 full-time veterinarians. The world had changed, and it had started with one scarred old dog and one man who refused to look away. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in Marcus's memory, Democrats and Republicans stood together, applauding the same legislation. Titan's Law passed 97-0 in the Senate, 421-0 in the House. The President signed it into law that afternoon, Titan sitting beside the resolute desk while cameras clicked and politicians posed. "Good boy," Marcus whispered, scratching behind his partner's scarred ear. "You did it, buddy. You changed everything." Titan's tail wagged once. He understood. He always understood. The Hartwell trials had concluded 3 months earlier. Preston received 12 years for aggravated assault, animal cruelty, breaking and entering, and destruction of property. The prosecutor had pushed for more, but the defense argued youth and remorse. Marcus had kept his promise. He'd spoken at the sentencing hearing, not to ask for mercy, but to tell the truth about what he'd witnessed. The judge had listened carefully, then handed down the maximum sentence anyway. "There comes a point," the judge had said, "where youth is no longer an excuse, where privilege is no longer a shield." The defendant had every advantage in life: wealth, education, opportunity, and chose cruelty anyway. That choice has consequences. Preston had cried when they led him away. Real tears. Whether they were tears of remorse or self-pity, Marcus couldn't tell. Parker's trial was more complicated. The vehicular homicide charge for Tommy Reyes's death had come with additional counts: leaving the scene of an accident, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to cover up a crime. The prosecution presented evidence that Parker had called his father immediately after hitting Tommy, and that Richard Hartwell had personally orchestrated the cover-up within hours. Parker had tried to claim he was just following his father's orders, that he'd been too drunk to make decisions, that he hadn't meant to kill anyone. Maria Reyes had testified for 3 hours. She'd brought photographs, home videos, letters Tommy had written from Iraq. She'd made her brother real to the jury, not a homeless man, not a statistic, but a person with dreams and fears and a family who loved him. "My brother survived roadside bombs and firefights and things most Americans can't imagine," Maria had said, her voice shaking but clear. "He came home broken, but he was trying. He was fighting to put his life back together. And this boy took that away from him. Not by accident, by choice. He chose to drink. He chose to drive. He chose to flee. And then he chose to let his father cover it up while my brother's body was still warm." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Parker Hartwell was convicted on all counts, 18 years, with no possibility of parole for the first 12. When the verdict was read, Maria collapsed against Marcus's shoulder, sobbing with a grief that was also, somehow, relief. 4 years of fighting, 4 years of being told her brother's life didn't matter,
And finally, someone had listened. "Thank you," she whispered. "You did this," Marcus told her. "Not me. You." Richard Hartwell's federal trial was still ongoing. The charges were extensive: fraud, tax evasion, bribery, witness tampering, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. His wife's testimony had been devastating. Former employees had lined up to tell their stories. The prosecution estimated he would face 30 to 40 years if convicted on all counts. The billionaire who had once owned an entire town was now broke, divorced, and facing the rest of his life in prison. His empire had been dismantled piece by piece. Properties were sold to pay restitution to victims. The company that had terrorized Cedar Falls for 3 decades was dissolved. The buildings that bore his name were being renamed. Marcus had visited him once, in the federal detention center where he awaited trial. He hadn't planned to, but something pulled him there. A need to understand, maybe. Or a need for closure. Hartwell looked 10 years older than he had that night in the jail cell. His expensive suits were gone, replaced by a prison jumpsuit. His silver hair was unkempt. His eyes had lost their predatory gleam. "Why are you here?" Hartwell asked. "I don't know," Marcus admitted. They sat in silence for a long moment. "I dream about that dog," Hartwell said finally. "Every night. I dream about my sons kicking dirt at him, throwing bottles. I dream about what might have happened if you hadn't shown up when you did." He looked at Marcus. "Would they have killed him?" "Probably. And I would have covered it up, like I covered up everything else." Hartwell's voice was hollow. "I created monsters, Mr. Cole. I spent 30 years building an empire, and all I really built was 2 boys who thought other people's lives were worthless. You could have stopped any time, made different choices." "I know. That's what haunts me." Hartwell leaned forward. "Do you believe in redemption, Mr. Cole?" Marcus considered the question. "I believe people can change. I've seen it. But change requires accountability. You can't be redeemed for something you never admitted was wrong." "And if I admitted it, all of it, truly felt remorse?" "Then maybe, in time. But remorse isn't enough. You have to make it right. Not just apologize for the damage. Repair it." Hartwell nodded slowly. "My lawyer says I should plead not guilty, fight the charges, maybe get a reduced sentence." "What do you say?" For a long moment, Hartwell was quiet. "I say I'm tired of fighting the truth." He met Marcus's eyes. "I'm going to plead guilty, to all of it. Recommend the maximum sentence. Whatever money I have left is going to the victims. Every cent." Marcus studied the man before him. "Why?" "Because my sons are watching. Even from prison, they're watching what I do. And if I fight this, if I hire lawyers and spin narratives and try to weasel out of consequences, I'm teaching them one more time that accountability is for other people." Hartwell's voice cracked. "I failed them, Mr. Cole. For 19 years, I failed them. Maybe it's too late to be a good father. But I can at least show them what taking responsibility looks like." Marcus stood. He didn't offer his hand. He didn't offer forgiveness. Some wounds were too deep for that. But he nodded. "That's a start," he said. And he walked away. The Titan Sanctuary opened its doors officially on a bright spring morning. 200 acres of rolling hills outside Cedar Falls, with state-of-the-art veterinary facilities, training areas, and comfortable housing for retired military dogs. The main building was named after Rodriguez, the teammate who had died in Marcus's arms in Kandahar. "He would have loved this," Danny said.
standing beside Marcus as veterans arrived with their families. Dogs everywhere, green grass, peace. "He would have demanded we add a pool," Marcus replied. "We did add a pool." Exactly. Kowalski had become the sanctuary's head trainer, working with veterans suffering from PTSD to form bonds with retired military dogs. The program had a 6-month waiting list already. "There's something healing about it," Kowalski explained to a reporter that morning. "These dogs saved lives. They've been through trauma. And so have the veterans who come here. They understand each other in a way nobody else can." Ramos ran security. Not that the sanctuary needed much, but he'd found purpose in protecting something worth protecting, after years of protecting things that sometimes weren't. Jennifer Morrison had won an Emmy for her documentary about the Hartwell case. She'd donated half the prize money to the sanctuary, and the other half to a fund for abuse survivors. "This story changed my life," she said in her acceptance speech. "It reminded me why I became a journalist. Not for ratings, not for fame, but to give voice to the voiceless, to shine light in dark places, to prove that truth still matters." Emily Chen had started a nonprofit supporting domestic violence survivors. The first year, they'd helped over 3,000 women escape abusive relationships. The second year, they doubled that number. "Every time I feel scared," Emily told a group of young women at a speaking event, "I remember that dog, Titan. He was starving, injured, alone. And he never stopped fighting. He never stopped believing someone would come." Her voice strengthened. "If he could keep going, so can we." Maria Reyes had written a book about her brother. Tommy, A Soldier's Last Battle, spent 14 weeks on the bestseller list. The proceeds went to homeless veteran organizations. "Tommy always wanted to help people," Maria said in an interview. "Even at his lowest point, he was sharing whatever he had with other guys on the street. This book, this money, it's his final mission, and I'm just honored to carry it out for him." Sarah's clinic had expanded beyond Cedar Falls. Satellite facilities were opening in 12 states, each one dedicated to helping animals who had been abandoned or abused. "I used to feel so powerless," Sarah admitted one night, lying beside Marcus in their bedroom at the sanctuary. "Like nothing I did could make a real difference. The Hartwells of the world would always win." And now? Now I know that's not true. One person can change everything. One dog can change everything. She pressed her head against his shoulder. One stubborn Navy SEAL who refused to give up. I had help. You had family. That's what you built, Marcus. Not just a sanctuary. A family. Everyone who fought beside you. Danny, Kowalski, Ramos, Jennifer, Emily, Maria. We're all family now. Because of you. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. Titan, sleeping at the foot of the bed, lifted his head and whined softly. "It's okay, buddy," Marcus managed. "Everything's okay." The dog's tail thumped once against the mattress. Then he lowered his head and went back to sleep. The anniversary ceremony was held at sunset. 1 year to the day since Marcus had pulled into that strip mall parking lot and found his partner surrounded by monsters. 1 year since the fight had begun. Veterans had come from across the country. Military officials, reporters, politicians. And at the center of it all, Titan, wearing his medals, sitting proud despite his age and his injuries. "A lot of people ask me why I fought so hard," Marcus said, standing at a podium overlooking the sanctuary's main grounds. "Why I risked everything for one dog. And I understand the question. In the grand scheme of things, what does one life matter?" He paused. "Here's what I've learned. Every life matters. Every single one. The moment we start deciding whose life is worth saving and whose isn't, that's when we lose ourselves. That's when we become the monsters. He looked at Titan. This dog never made that calculation. When my unit was under fire, he didn't stop to ask if we deserved saving. When I was bleeding out in Kandahar, he didn't weigh the odds and decide I wasn't worth the risk. He just acted. He just loved. He just protected. Marcus's voice thickened. We talk a lot about heroism in this country. We give medals and make speeches and build monuments. But real heroism isn't about glory. It's about showing up, day after day, fight after fight, even when you're tired, even when you're hurt, even when the whole world seems to be against you. He stepped away from the podium and knelt beside Titan. This dog is 10 years old now. His hips are bad. His hearing is going. He sleeps more than he's awake. Marcus rested his hand on Titan's head. But he's still here, still fighting, still showing up. He looked up at the crowd. That's what he taught me. That's what he teaches everyone who comes to this sanctuary. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be young or strong or powerful. You just have to keep going, keep fighting, keep believing that tomorrow can be better than today. Marcus stood. The Hartwell twins thought Titan was worthless. They looked at an old, injured dog and saw something to torment, something to destroy. His voice hardened. They were wrong. They couldn't see what was right in front of them. A warrior, a hero, a soul that had earned its place in this world 1,000 times over. He looked at Maria Reyes. They couldn't see Tommy Reyes either. They looked at a homeless veteran and saw roadkill. They couldn't see the soldier, the brother, the man who survived things they couldn't imagine. He looked at Emily Chen. They couldn't see Emily. They looked at a young woman and saw property, something to use and discard. They couldn't see her strength, her courage, her refusal to stay silent. Marcus turned back to the crowd. The Hartwells had everything: money, power, influence. But they were blind. Blind to the value of other people's lives. Blind to the consequences of their actions. Blind to the simple truth that no amount of wealth makes you better than anyone else. He paused. This past year, we proved them wrong. We proved that justice isn't for sale. That truth is more powerful than money. That one scarred old dog and a bunch of people who refused to give up could take down an empire built on cruelty. The crowd was utterly silent. But this isn't about revenge. It never was. Revenge is empty. Revenge just creates more pain. Marcus shook his head. This is about building something better, about taking the worst thing that ever happened to us and turning it into something that helps others. He gestured to the sanctuary around him. 200 dogs live here now. Dogs who serve their country and have earned their rest. And every single one of them has a veteran partner. Someone who understands what they've been through. Someone who needs them as much as they need a home. His voice dropped. That's what Titan taught me. That pain can become purpose. That scars can become strength. That the worst moments of our lives can become the foundation for our best work. He looked at Sarah, at Danny, at Kowalski and Ramos, at Jennifer and Emily and Maria, at everyone who had stood beside him through the darkest days. I didn't do this alone. I couldn't have. None of us can. We need each other. We need to see each other, really see each other, not as problems to be solved or obstacles to be overcome, but as fellow travelers on this hard, beautiful journey called life. Marcus turned to Titan one final time. Hey, buddy. The old dog looked up at him with those brown and gold eyes that had seen so much. War and peace, cruelty and kindness, abandonment and rescue. I made you a promise once, in Kandahar, after you took that bullet for me. Marcus's voice cracked. I promised that as long as I was breathing, I would never let anyone hurt you again. He knelt down, face to face with his partner. I broke that promise. I let someone else take care of you when I should have been there myself, and you paid the price for my mistake. Titan licked his face. But I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you. Marcus wrapped his arms around the dog's neck. We're home, buddy. Both of us. Finally home. The sun was setting over the sanctuary. Golden light spilled across the hills where retired war dogs played and rested and healed, where veterans found purpose and connection and hope, where one old German shepherd had become a symbol for everything that was good and strong and true. Sarah approached quietly and placed her hand on Marcus's shoulder. It's time, she said softly. Marcus nodded. He stood, helping Titan to his feet. Together, they walked toward a small hill overlooking the sanctuary. A stone marker had been placed there that morning. Marcus read the inscription aloud. In memory of all who served, the soldiers who came home broken, the dogs who were left behind, the victims who were silenced. This ground is sacred. This mission is forever. Below the inscription were two names: Tommy Reyes, soldier, brother, hero. Rodriguez, brother, warrior, friend. And below those, three words: never forgotten, never again. Maria Reyes stood beside the marker, tears streaming down her face. But she was smiling.
He would have loved this place, she whispered. Tommy. He always said he wanted to work with dogs when he got his life together. He's here now, Marcus said. They both are. The ceremony ended as the last light faded from the sky. Guests departed. Staff returned to their duties. The sanctuary settled into peaceful quiet. But Marcus stayed on the hill with Titan, watching the stars come out one by one. You know something, buddy? He said softly. Titan's ear perked up. I spent 15 years learning how to fight, how to protect, how to destroy enemies before they destroyed us. Marcus stroked the dog's graying fur. But you taught me something more important. You taught me how to heal, how to love, how to keep going when everything seems lost. Titan pressed his head against Marcus's chest. This sanctuary, Titan's law, the lives we've changed. Marcus looked out at the land below, where lights were coming on in the dormitories and kennels. That's your legacy. Not the medals, not the combat missions. This, right here. He sat down on the cool grass, and Titan lay beside him, his head on Marcus's lap. I know you're tired, buddy. I know your body hurts. But I need you to stay with me just a little longer, okay? Marcus's voice broke. I need you to see what we built. I need you to know it mattered, that you mattered. Titan's tail wagged weakly. Good boy. Marcus wiped his eyes roughly. Best dog I ever knew. Best partner I ever had. My brother. My hero. My friend. The night wrapped around them like a blanket. And in that moment, on that sacred ground, Marcus Cole understood something he hadn't before. The fight would never really be over. There would always be another Hartwell, another victim, another abandoned dog waiting in the darkness for someone to notice. But that was okay, because for every monster, there was someone willing to stand against them. For every act of cruelty, there was an act of kindness waiting to answer. For every life destroyed, there was a life waiting to be saved.
The darkness was real, but so was the light. And as long as there were people like Marcus and Sarah and Danny and Maria and Emily, as long as there were dogs like Titan, who never stopped fighting, never stopped loving, never stopped believing, the light would win. It always did. It always would. Because that was the simple, beautiful truth at the heart of everything. Love was stronger than hate. Courage was stronger than fear. And one scarred old warrior, given a second chance, could change the world. Marcus held his partner close as the stars wheeled overhead. "We did it, buddy," he whispered. And finally, at long last, they were both at peace. In 2025, Titan's Law was signed into federal law. Every military working dog in America now receives guaranteed lifetime care. Preston and Parker Hartwell served their full sentences. Neither was granted early release. Richard Hartwell pleaded guilty to all charges. He is currently serving 32 years in federal prison. The Titan Sanctuary has expanded to 15 locations across the United States. Over 3,000 retired military dogs have found homes. Emily Chen's nonprofit has helped more than 20,000 domestic violence survivors escape abuse. Maria Reyes continues to advocate for homeless veterans. The Tommy Reyes Amendment has provided housing for over 50,000 veterans in crisis. Marcus and Sarah Cole welcomed their first child in spring of that year, a daughter named Hope. And Titan, surrounded by everyone who loved him, lived out his final years in peace.
He passed quietly in his sleep at age 12, his head on Marcus's lap, dreaming of green fields and endless sunshine. His medals hang in the sanctuary's main hall, beside his collar and a photograph of a young dog and a young soldier, starting their journey together. The inscription reads, "Titan, warrior, hero, friend." He saved lives, he changed hearts, he never stopped fighting, and he was loved.